Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another sort of Convallaria video, and today we are going to answer the question, should you pull for Cavari? Now, this is going to be my first should you pull video since returning to Sword of Convallaria, and I get a little bit lucky here because Cavari is an easy yes. Like, if that's all you care about, if all you want to know is should free-to-play players, should spenders, should anybody be pulling for this guy, I think the answer is actually yes across the board. Even as he starts to appear on the screen here, you get a feel for how cool this dude looks. I mean, he looks like a vampire. I don't know that he really is a vampire, but I'm not there in the lore yet. Honestly, I'm just not there. But he looks like one. His kit is amazing. This guy is going to be a top tier magic damage dealing destroyer unit, even in updated Chinese server tier lists. And like I said, I've spent my whole day today just going over how people on that version of the game feel about him. And here's Hockey's tier list on the screen. Hockey makes really good content for this game, especially with that preview in the Chinese server stuff. And there's Cavari hanging out in the top right corner of this tier list. I remember when Beryl used to live there. We're talking about those briefly after launch days. She carried my account for a long time. She's all the way down into tier 1 on this list now, and Cavari's chilling in that tier 0. So as a new player, as a free-to-play player, I think it's worth using all of the resources I have to make an attempt at getting him. Now, the drawback of being a free-to-play player is I could miss him, and I feel like missing him would hurt my account significantly. Sure, I'll probably get something from those pulls, but missing this guy is going to suck if I do indeed miss him, so I really hope I don't. I really hope I don't. We're going to briefly go over his kit today. I'm going to show you what he does. That official preview video that the game dropped that you were seeing on the screen, that's pretty good at showing you some of what his skills are. But with all the videos I've seen today, this guy does a lot of damage. A lot of damage. And it's a little bit different than somebody like Beryl, who is mostly just look, I'm going to stand back. I'm going to throw spells at you. You're going to die. This guy's a little bit more, nuanced. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for. Let's just take a look at his kit right here. So here he is. You can see his stats at level 60 on the screen, that 936 magic. He's looking really good there. He's got a decent amount of HP, but we're going to mostly talk about his traits and a few of his skills. This is not a full kit breakdown. I'm not ready to do that stuff yet, but pay attention to his trait right here. HP and magic attack increase by 9%. I'm going to drop him back to 1 star. Let's say you just get 1 copy of him. Don't know why I had it on 3. HP and magic attack increase by 3%. He gains an additional skill, roster, which is an instant, and roster does this. It's a debuff. At the start of the turn, inflict 2 random level 2 debuffs on the target for 2 turns. So he starts by inflicting debuffs on the target. This man is the king of dots, debuffs, stealing buffs, giving buffs. He does all of this stuff on top of doing damage. This is one way that he can, inflict debuffs. So he'll start by inflicting 2 level 2 debuffs on the target for 2 turns. And then when roster, the name of this skill, ends, or the target is attacked and enters the dying state, so they're getting low, their HP's low, they're about to die, Cavari immediately summons assassins to attack the character, dealing 100% of his magic damage, then removes the roster effect. This is essentially what this is. This is essentially an execute skill. So if somebody gets low HP, he summons an assassin, they come in there, bop, they're dead, he finishes them off. So no low HP enemy running around kind of, ruining your run. Somebody gets low HP, Cavari summons an assassin on him, removes that roster debuff. There's a lot more that roster does than that. There's more going on here, but that's the trait, right? That's just his trait, and it already does those things. Okay, let's go back and look at his kit a little bit more. All right, so he does that. He also gives them, with, again, just his trait, he gives them life loss. Now, life loss is the debuff where they lose a certain amount of their HP at the end of each turn. This counts as a damage over time. That's really important when you're looking at the rest of his kit. He wants units to be inflicted with damage over time because he has ways of popping those dots to instantly trigger them. So this is one way with his trait that he can apply a damage over time, debuff to an enemy. The life loss equals 30% of his magic attack. So again, he's going to scale off of magic attack. On enemies without roster, for 3 turns. So let me just read that again because I kind of piece it together. Effect, instant, inflicts roster and life loss equal to 30% of the character's magic attack on enemies without roster for 3 turns. Can be used 1 time per round. When removing roster from the target, increase the character's attack by 5% up to 20%. So we can get up to 20% attack and defense buff, again, just from his trait, lasting until the end of the battle. It cannot be dispelled or immunized, and at the end of the turn, cast roster skill on the closest enemy without roster within 5 tiles. So he can trigger it to put roster on somebody, and it will automatically put roster on somebody within 5 tiles at the end of his turn. We're not going to talk about his basic attack or anything like that, but let's look at this skill Conviction right here. This is his starting skill, 100% magic attack damage. It's another opportunity for him to inflict life loss on a character again, and some more debuffs. He gives move -1 and speed -2, both useful debuffs. And guess what? If the target has roster, that thing we just spent all that time talking about, it will dispel all of their buffs for attacking and additionally deal 100% of his magic attack as damage. The duration of life loss is reduced by 1 turn. So a huge hard-hitting skill if the unit has the roster debuff. And it's really important, like something I want to mention before I go on with this video anymore. Cavari has a lot of skills that he can only use 1 time a fight. Like, they're so powerful, he has 1 use of them per fight. His basic skill, the skill he starts with, his default skill, is really, really good single target DPS. And that's important because you might not want to load him up with a lot, like, in my opinion, you might want to keep this skill on him as you go forward in the game as a reusable big damaging ability. Now, I'm not to the end game yet right now. I don't have a current in-game account, but I can see the potential of that ability just to do a ton of damage. And we haven't even got to leveling him up yet. So let's talk about leveling him up a little bit. Okay, you go to his level 1, his rank 1. You're gonna want to take Will of Victory here, in my opinion. Now, I'll do more of a detailed guide later if I get my hands on him. Hopefully I do, and if not, I'll still do one. But this Will of Victory is his, like, it's one of his bread and butter skills. It turns into another attack every single time he uses it. And that attack is called Cavari's Collection, or the whole set of attacks is called Cavari's Collection. Now, you can read through all of this if you want to. Just visit, some website, some wiki that breaks this down. But essentially, he cycles through a round of doing a buff or a heal for him or his allies, and a damage. He does fire damage, then does ice damage, then he does like thunder damage equal to 180%, dispels all buffs, and immediately triggers roster and all dots. The last one there is the big one. There's going to be some timing things here where you're going to want to start cycling through these skills early in a fight, or you're going to want to time it to where you're putting debuffs on these enemies, maybe like a boss. You're putting the roster, his passive on the boss, and then you hit him with this massive 180% lightning damage attack that triggers instantly all of the dots you have on him and the roster effect. Like, it removes roster, so it just triggers all this stuff, and that's going to be where he pops off. That's going to be probably his biggest, his hardest hitting attack. There it is. He can only use it once. Once you cycle through all of these abilities in Cavari's Collection, you're done. You can't use them again for the rest of the fight. That's how good I guess that skill is. Okay, you go through here. Cavari's Gift is really cool. It's a way of him having some more support for his team. He can do a heal that scales off his magic attack. He then shares damage with the person who's getting the heal for 2 turns. It can't be dispelled. If the target is an enemy, it will stun them. So we could cast this on an enemy in stun, prevents them from taking action. So that's pretty good. If it's an ally, they get attack 2 and damage 2 and damage reduction 2 for 2 turns. So an insanely powerful buff that he'll have access to with his rank 3 skill. He's not just about damage. He can support your team a little bit as well. Again, just making him more versatile. Okay, as we go down here, he can strip buffs from an enemy. He can steal buffs and give them to himself with entrapping. I think that's really cool. I also think Sanctuary Emblem is really cool. His rank 5 is one of the ones that I don't know which one I would take. Sanctuary Emblem gives you access to a giant AoE shield for your team. Entrapping gives you buff stealing from an enemy. Both of those look really good. Okay, Arcane Toxins Dark Withering at his rank 7. This is going to be 100% scaling attack right here, and 3 random level 2 debuffs for 2 turns. So more of a way of him applying debuffs to an enemy, whereas Dark Withering is another way of applying life loss. Again, those dots that he can trigger with his, victory before battle round 3 of popping off those skills thing. So it's another way of putting life loss on an AoE group of enemies. Also turns off their healing for 2 turns, which is really good. You can take Infectious Attack or Silencing Attack. Infectious Attack seems to be the one for me because this will put Infection on them, which is another debuff that you can trigger with your other skills there. Okay. At rank 11, you get This Is the Moment for Rain. Now, this ability is the one that is highlighted in the video that's been playing in the background. And in fact, let's take a look at it right here. So they call this his ultimate. I always call this kind of like their signature move, but let's pause for a second. As it's running, I'll pause it. So it says, Cavari unleashes a powerful attack dealing piercing damage to all enemies within his range. And the range on this is massive. Against enemies marked with roster, he inflicts piercing vulnerability, no reactions, no passives, and isolates them before attacking, and then instantly triggers the roster effect and all dot effects. So it's another way of inflicting those dot effects on an enemy. And you got to see right there, look at this. Let's back this up. Look at the range on this attack. It's massive. He's hitting a lot of enemies right there. It is going to be a really powerful skill, and it's obviously the one you're going to want to take. So I'm not going further into breaking all this stuff down. I just want to give you a quick little run through of his kit in this video to kind of highlight why this guy is going to be a top tier magic DPS. And again, from my experience, having a top tier magic DPS in your account, whether you're a whale, whether you're a free to play player, whether you're a light spender, wherever you fall, it just is so helpful in pushing that end of the game highest tier content. So as a free to play player, there's no guarantee that I get him. I hope I get him because he just looks insanely good. And I think I started the game at a very good time. Now, I say that because I got SP Sophia for cheap. I didn't have to spend any of I just had pulls and I got her, which is awesome. But back to back top tier characters feels like a really good way to start the game. Now, the downside of that is, and I'm going to talk about this in another beginner guide video that I'm working on right now, is the power creep. I do think that is something to bring up. If you miss Cavari, or if you pass on him, if you choose not to pull for this guy, I don't think you've ruined your account. If this game, as I'm coming back, has proved anything, my old account was stacked. I had almost every character in the game, and I haven't been gone for all that long. Almost none of them are top tier characters in the Chinese version anymore. So power creep is a real thing in this game. Now, the beauty of Sword of Convallaria has always been you can play epic units, you can clear basically most of the content in this game without these top tier characters. But as they get stronger and stronger, I imagine as I get to whatever the newest version of the end game is, my old team comps might not even be able to do what they used to do anymore. So like I said, that just is what it is. As a free-to-play player, I'm going to throw what I have at him. I definitely think he's somebody you should pull. Is power creep in this game real? Yes. Does that mean he won't be top tier forever? Yes. It is a gacha game. That's kind of how these things work. All right, guys, that's my thought on Cavari. If you're pulling for him, good luck. I will be pulling for him. I'll record those pulls and post them on this channel. Working on my new player guide right now. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you next time. Peace.